This episode of Fermented Adventure the podcast is sponsored by Fermented Adventure. I am so glad that I have my shirt picked out already for Halloween.
You do?
Yes, and you can find it on Fermented Adventure under merchandise. It's our new Halloween release. Woo!
Are you talking about I'm just here for the brews?
I am just here for the brews. This is the perfect shirt to go to Halloween events, wear to your brewery, around town. You are in costume. You're ready to go.
And the great thing about the shirt is it's long sleeve and it's not just for Halloween.
You can wear this anytime, right?
Absolutely.
Not just that, but we have other merchandise.
And we also have tags, tees, hoodies, and sweatshirts.
Lots of items on our website. How do people find our website, Dawn?
They go to fermentedadventure.com and click on the apparel tab.
Click on the apparel tab and they'll find I have mixed drinks about feelings and may contain whiskey and what else?
We also have our Fermented Adventure logo shirt and alcohol is the solution.
So if you're still stumped about what you're going to wear for Halloween, check out our merchandise, look for the shirt, and you will be fashionable for this Halloween and people will say,
you listen to Fermented Adventure, the podcast, too?
Exactly. Cheers!
Cheers.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, craft spirit enthusiasts, and those interested in the intoxicating world of craft distilleries, cideries, meaderies, wineries, and the occasional foray into breweries. It's Rich Shane, and welcome to Fermented Adventure, the podcast, where we bring you the fascinating people that are making the mash, fermenting, distilling, bottling, pouring, and delivering to you some of the finest libations in the world. Before we get started, here are a few housekeeping items. Thank you for bringing the podcast into wherever you are and whatever you're doing. We truly are grateful that you have chosen to listen and make us part of your day. It would mean the world to us if you left a 5-star review. This helps us climb in the rankings and it makes it easier for others to find us. Don't hesitate to leave us your comments as well. If the podcast didn't meet your expectations, tell us why. We're always striving to improve. You can find us at fermentedadventure.com. We are on Instagram and Facebook as Fermented Adventure. Email us at fermentedadventure@gmail.com. All right, FA Nation, let's meet our guest. He's Gabe DiSaverio. I'm Rich Shane. This is Fermented Adventure, the podcast. Gabe, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm pumped.
I'm pumped because we get to talk hot sauce today. Hot products, everything hot, maybe some things not so terribly hot, but we met you, the Spicy Shark, at the Bowers Chili Pepper Festival in Pennsylvania. Fell in love with your hot sauces, and I'm excited. I can't wait to learn more. My first question to you is, how did the Spicy Shark get started?
All right. Well, we love Bowers. That was awesome to be there. Pepper festivals in the entire country, actually. We got started in 2018, and the short of it is I combined my two favorite things in life, which are hot sauces and sharks, and decided to somehow put those two things together. Of course, there's no shark in the hot sauce, but put those two things together, and I started the Spicy Shark. And that we're in our 5th year now, 4th full year. And it was a combo of those two passions, and decided to leave the beer business and go pro in the hot sauce business.
All right. You just said a whole bunch of things that I'm curious about. One, you said you left the beer business. So if you don't mind, how did you get to the beer business, or what did you do in the beer business?
Well, I was actually in the beer business for 17 years. So that was pretty much my career after I left the restaurant business. And I worked for the Boston Beer Company. So Sam Adams, Angry Orchard, Twisted Tea, Truly Spiked and Sparkling. And so I had a bunch of different jobs, all in New England. We're based in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, myself and the Spicy Shark is, but lived all over New England, different jobs. The last 10 years of that career, I was the sales manager for Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. So yeah, sold a lot of beer over 17 years and loved it, and was a little bit, sad to leave. But, I really developed a passion to have my own company and do my own thing. And kind of my heart was in hot sauce and sharks.
So please share how your heart came to first hot sauce.
Well, I grew up not too far from you. I actually grew up in northern New Jersey and the North Fork of Long Island. And I grew up in a really diverse and ethnic community, and I had a lot of Asian and Indian friends. And we were eating spicy food before I was even 10 years old. And my mom was a big fan of eating and cooking spicy food. So I remember our favorite fast food joint as a kid was called Curry in a Hurry. And there's like a whole little chain of them now. But so I was eating really spicy things, was always into really hot things, and then got into craft hot sauce back when this account opened out on the North Fork of Long Island called Greenport Fire, which was probably well over 10 years ago now. And I started, be aware that there were craft hot sauces and more than just, Tabasco, Frank's, and Cholula. And that's what got me really interested in different flavor profiles when those guys opened. And so myself and my sister started messing around with some recipes. And the recipe development team is myself, my sister, and a friend of mine. They're both very, very good culinary, cooks as well. And so that's kind of the hot sauce background. I've always been a heat seeker. I've always, been the one to enter the hot wing contest. I knew I was going to marry my wife when on our third date, she pulled out a bottle of Tabasco from her purse for our clam chowder.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's when I knew. And now we have hot sauce holsters, so we don't have to worry about it spilling into the purse. But
I can only wonder what would happen if she pulled out a big jar of mayonnaise. I just...
That would have been something. I was glad it was Tabasco. So yeah, I've just always been into really hot things, and I've never really had a meal that I can remember in the last 20 years that didn't have hot sauce, chili pepper flakes, or something to add some heat and flavor to it.
So you mentioned the word heat seeker. So is that a term that's used in the industry as to somebody that loves hot things, or is that your terminology?
I've heard it before. I think the common term in our industry would be chili heads, and I'm definitely one of those. We call it the chili head community. There's a ton of Facebook groups, which is awesome, for craft hot sauce. And, one of them is called Chili Heads. And it's just someone who definitely has a much higher tolerance for heat than the average American, and really enjoys pushing limits and eating hot things. And to a chili head, it would be insane to think of a day, a meal a day without some element of heat to it.
In the beginning, you talked about, all right, you wanted to generate or come together with your own sauces. How did that process work for you? And you brought your sister in and your friend. How did all that come together where you started blending and understanding the recipes?
Well, it started, my sister's husband is Jamaican, and he was growing Scotch bonnets in his backyard and in New Jersey. And I had never had a Scotch bonnet pepper at the time. I'd only had habaneros, and I fell in love with that pepper. It was a little bit hotter than the habanero, had, more fruitiness, and just there was so much to it when I was eating them raw. And so we just started, mixing that together. I'm a big fan of also bell peppers. So we started adding in some bell peppers. When I cook, I use a lot of ginger. So we put a little bit of ginger. Next thing you know, it was kind of laying down the beat for our first hot sauce, our original, which is now a habanero hot sauce, not a Scotch bonnet. We do have a Scotch bonnet hot sauce. And, the reaction from friends for the original was so good for so long that we started messing around and doing other recipes, and then got really creative and doing things that, weren't hot sauces, like a hot honey and the hot maple syrup. So really trying to push the limits to where you could get heat from and make sure there's no meal that you'd have to go without it.
Where are you sourcing your products from now? Are you still growing some on your properties or a farm close by? How do you obtain your peppers and some of your other ingredients in your hot sauce?
So our peppers specifically, a lot of them come. I mean, I've been in New England now since 1997. So I'm a New Englander. I have been for a while. We actually get the majority of our fresh peppers from farms in Vermont. Vermont has a really great hot pepper farming community. And so we've had developed some relationships over there. So a lot of our peppers come from there. We do also use some mashes that we buy on the Louisiana Pepper Exchange, which is a great source if you want to buy mashes. So we do buy some mashes from there. As far as other ingredients, our honey, I sourced honey from Maine down to Miami, out to West Virginia. I sourced honey for 6 months, and I settled on a group of apiaries on the Tennessee Virginia border. And quite frankly, because it was the best honey I could find. And, I got to meet the owner and understand and make sure it was all, not from overseas and things like that. And then with our maple syrups, I'm lucky as a New Englander. I live kind of in the land of maple trees and the land of maple syrup. So I was able to source 3 really good sugar houses in Vermont. And that's source our grade A dark robust syrup for the 2 syrups we make. So really a variety of places. If possible to buy in New England, I do. And the majority of our ingredients are in New England. But I certainly will always prioritize the best possible product first, and wherever that may be.
You said something really interesting that popped like a curiosity in my head. And that was, hey, our peppers are coming mostly, in this case, from New England. We speak about things like terroir and provenance in wine and in grain and different things like mead or cider, where you're getting those products from that area and how that lends with the soil and the winds and the climate. I wonder how that impacts on the peppers. Now you can have, let's say, a cayenne or habanero or Scotch bonnet from, your neck of the woods, and that might be totally different in a way in flavor profile, let's say at your brother-in-law's house or somewhere, throughout the world. Do you, can you sense that, or is that something you can line up and say, this came from this area? Are you that much of a chili head to know with a pepper?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I could, be owner a sommelier, where I could say, hey, this scorpion pepper came from India versus Louisiana. But to your point, there are differences. I mean, some parts of the country really aren't going to, the pepper is not going to ripen enough to its fullest capacity. Other places, if you don't have a farmer, who knows what he's doing, you're going to have a wild inconsistency of heat. And a lot of times people will do different breeds of peppers too close to each other, and then you'll get some crossbreeding, which in some ways are fun and create new peppers, like the Carolina Reaper is a crossbred pepper. But there'll also be inconsistencies from just doing some things in your backyard. So there's definitely a lot of talent, care, and love that goes into doing it the right way, and certainly certain types of climate. The South being traditionally better than the North, but there are greenhouses. There's ways to accommodate for sure.
Your points there were really fascinating to me. You taught me something about, hey, how close should peppers be in terms of, when we talk about things like cross-pollination, and it's the same exact thing with a pepper. I'm guessing, or it sounds like this is something you're going to work with your farmers on as well to get those best peppers you can absolutely find.
Oh, yeah. And, you find out pretty soon, the key thing is consistent flavor and consistent heat. If you're just buying, from your local food producer and you get habaneros one week, maybe from Chile, another week, maybe it's from the States, but there's going to be, there'll be a difference in flavor. Probably not noticeable by the time it's in a sauce with all the other ingredients you have, but the heat would be the big one. And when we have, a 5-fin heat scale, and we have, different fins allocated to the product, you don't want to have a wild difference in heat level versus what you're trying to communicate to the customer that the heat level is.
Let's talk sharks. You mentioned your 5-fin heat scale. Talk about the incorporation of the sharks in your branding. And you had spoke about, hey, you love hot sauce and you love sharks. So talk about where the sharks come in.
Yeah, I've always been just a crazy shark and Jaws fanatic. I saw the movie Jaws when I was 8 years old, and I've been obsessed since, obsessed with sharks, obsessed with the ocean. I actually almost went to University of Miami to study marine biology, definitely pivoted last minute and went to Boston and studied business. But I've always been a Jaws fanatic to the point where I currently have, after looking for like 20 years, I have a 1975 K5 Blazer, the identical car that Chief Brody drove in Jaws. And I bought that in a classic car auction in 2020. and completely remodeled it so it looks identical to the one that Chief Brody had, with the lights and the Amity Police Department and everything. So that's been quite a hit. So I'm a huge Jaws fanatic. What changed for me kind of personally was I was on Amity Island or Martha's Vineyard in 2012 for Jaws Fest. There's been 2 Jaws Fests so far. There's actually going to be another big one for the Jaws 50-year anniversary in 3 years. But anyway, I was on
That
Jaws
is so
Fest.
Cool to hear. I would love to go to that.
You
That
should
sounds
come.
So cool.
It's currently being planned, and I'm proud to be a part of the planning process, but it's going to be awesome or jawsome. And I was on, Martha's Vineyard as a Jaws fanatic and pretty much just that. And it was great. But I got to talk an hour, and Wendy Benchley is the wife of the late Peter Benchley, who wrote the book Jaws before it became the movie. And she let me know that Peter's greatest regret in life was writing Jaws and the demonization of sharks and the killing of sharks and this, Hollywood culture of the shark is the enemy that led to big game fishing and shark killing, that really a lot of that stemmed from the movie Jaws and continues to. There's a lot of demonization of sharks, and they're very, very misunderstood. And so I had no idea. And she let me know over 100 million sharks are killed every year by humans, for shark fin soup as bycatch, for squalene from their livers, for beauty products, shark killing tournaments. So I was blown away. I had no idea. So I immediately joined her organization, Shark Savers. I took up scuba diving. Now I've been on shark dives. In fact, I'm planning another shark dive in January off of Jupiter, Florida. It's going to be a lemon shark dive. And so I really got into the shark conservation end of things in my personal life. And so when I started the company in 2018 and I was thinking about a name, I knew it would be shark themed, shark involved, because that's my passion. Spicy Shark, and it was available.
Is there a plan in the works right now for the Spicy Shark to be the sole promoter of Shark Week?
I am a very small company, so I can't even fathom the amount of dollars that it would take to be a sponsor of Shark Week. But what's so cool is, since you mentioned Shark Week, I've been able to really network and meet so many people who are involved in Shark Week. And, I go down to SharkCon in July every year, and we're a vendor down there, which is a big shark conservation event. And, so it's funny at this point now during Shark Week, there'll be friends of mine who are now on it and have been a part of it for years. My buddy Joe Romero out of Rhode Island, he was on with the Jackass guys this year, and he does a lot of the filming with 333 Productions. So, it feels like you're a part of it when you're texting the guys who are on it, joking around what they're doing and stuff. So that's been really cool to kind of get into the shark community, since I, kind of always wanted to do that when I was going to go to Florida for school. So that part has been a lot of fun, because those are kind of like my celebrities,
At the very least, we need to get some product placement, at least a couple bottles somewhere in the shot somewhere. That would be fine.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the other wonderful things, you talked about your passion for sharks, but each bottle or through the products, there's a charity component to your business called Save the Sharks. Talk a little bit about that.
So our big passion, as I was talking about, is shark conservation. And we work with a ton of nonprofits that focus on the same things that we focus on. So if you look on our website, there is a section that says Save the Sharks, and that lists some of our nonprofit partners. So we do a lot with those guys. And what I like doing with any of the nonprofits that we work with is to really develop a relationship with them, get to know, what they're about, that our missions are aligned, and then really do kind of a program or do fun things together with them. So, one year we did a Sharktoberfest program with our friends, the Shark Stewards out in California. And I think we got 10 or 12 bars on board with it. And the bars serve spicy shark wings. So it was just chicken wings with spicy shark wing sauce, and then $1 of every order. And we actually partnered with my old employer, Boston Beer Company. So if you got a plate of spicy shark wings and a Sam Adams Oktoberfest, $1 went to the Shark Stewards. So it's a really fun incorporated program where it really, ties directly into one of them. And then we have signs up. And then more recently, we just put on the first annual New England Hot Sauce Fest this past year, which was great. It was a first-year event. We had 26 hot sauce companies from across the Northeast, and we had almost 2,500 people. And I had two nonprofit beneficiaries. Those are our local ocean conservation friends, Blue Ocean Society and Seacoast Science Center. And we were able to raise almost $10,000 for the two of those guys. So that was really cool. So we get very involved and get to know the nonprofits, make sure that, we're all aligned in what we're trying to do, and try to raise money and draw awareness to what's going on. And that's been a really fun part of it.
So when you purchase anything from the Spicy Shark, you're doing two things. Number one, you're doing good for your mouth. Number two, you're doing good for the sharks. So it's a good feeling to be able to do that. There's so many things that you make. I mean, you started with one. How many SKUs are you up to now? How many products do you have in the whole lineup of the Spicy Shark?
We have 12 right now, and we are, it's funny you asked that question because we are currently working on the 13th. We haven't had a new launch since the first of our 6-fin series. We were talking earlier about the 5-fin heat scale. So we launched the first of our 6-fin series, the Hamagata, back in early 2020. And we are currently working on our second 6-fin, which I'm hoping to launch in January of 23.
Now, for those that are not familiar with the fin scale, the shark fin scale, talk about the degree of spiciness as we get to that point.
Yeah, one thing just as a consumer before I started the company that really kind of, I guess always just bothered me was the incredible lack of communication on a lot of hot sauces about how hot it actually was. So you really didn't know if it was going to be mild, medium, hot, or in between. I mean, some companies certainly did, but a lot of them, you just don't know what you're getting. And you could be disappointed because there's almost no heat to it, or you could be really in pain because it's an extract hot sauce. I mean, we would never use extracts, but an extract hot sauce that just blows your head off and you're in pain for 3 hours. So when I started the company, I said, I want to have pretty clear communication as to the heat level. So we developed the 5-fin heat scale. So we have 5 fins on the label, and it goes mild, warm, medium, hot, and wicked hot. Obviously, we're here up in New England. And then in a couple of years ago, I was kind of sitting there and I said, we made the products to make sure that, people would enjoy them and that they would sell. So if I did everything according to my palate, I probably wouldn't be very successful because I eat things scorching hot. But I was sitting there and I said, geez, this is my company and I don't even have a product that's hot enough for me. Like, what the heck? So I said, what am I going to do? I said, well, I have a 5-fin heat scale and I already have a 5-fin product, the Megalodon. So what am I going to do? Well, the 6-fin series. And I said, well, I already have a Megalodon. That's the biggest shark that ever existed. What's bigger than a Megalodon? Well, mythical creatures that come into my head at 2 a.m, half hammerhead shark, half alligator, spelled with a New England accent. So he's the Hamagata kid. So that's the first of the 6-fin series. And so we're working kind of similar in concept as far as a hybrid creature that came to me in the middle of the night. That's half shark and half another animal. And this product is going to be completely different in a flavor profile. It actually has an Indian curry masala background to it. And it's going to have ghost pepper on the forefront, some additional heat from Carolina Reaper, and also some nice flavor from habanero. So those are going to be the 3 peppers in it. We just finished our first version, which came out delicious. I love it, but I went a little bit too heavy on the curry and not enough on some of the sweetness and masala that I really wanted to come through on it. So I'm back in the kitchen actually tomorrow to adjust it a little bit, but it's coming along nicely.
One of the benefits or one of the values that I hear from you in the creation of your hot sauce is going back to when you were a kid and your friends and those ethnic origins of some of the foods that you ate that maybe a lot of people are not familiar with, and those ingredients that you can now incorporate into your hot sauce. So I find that to be very interesting. I'm waiting to see. By the way, I love your logo. I love the shark. It looks like it's moving, but it's coming up from the water, and it's got this fire coming out of its mouth. I'm waiting to see if the logo has not been created. The shark with the mullet. I think nothing screams New England than a mullet. Maybe, I don't know. Going back to those 80s, 90s times, would that be a possibility?
What's really funny about you saying that is, so, I'm a 70s child, but, my growing up was done in the 80s. And, I always wanted to have a mullet, but I've got, kind of my hair grows up, not down. So it's kind of, I can kind of have a nice afro, but I can't really have a mullet. But what's great is for our hot sauce festival that we put on at Smutty Nose Brewery, which we're doing again next year on July 29th, is it was completely 80s themed. So exclusively 80s music was played the entire time, mostly because, that's what I wanted to hear, but people loved it. And I definitely encouraged any 80s outfits and hair. And I did see a couple mullets. One was real and two that were fake. But they were, anytime you can see a mullet, real or fake, I think it's a great day.
My ability to have a mullet disappeared many, many years ago, but I did have one. And, I went to school at Johnson & Wales in Providence. So,
oh, wow.
I was immersed, certainly you talk about the 80s. I was immersed in the mullet culture of New England for sure. You have right now 12 products. So go from the 1 fin all the way up to the 5 fin. Let our listeners know, talk about some of those products. We have a couple of products here that I want to taste with you when you get there. So you talked about the first product in its inception, and take us through the line.
Yeah. So I'll go, why don't we do that? I'll go by through the fins. So on the 1 fin scale, we have on the sauce side, we have our smoked maple sriracha, which garlic forward, like you would expect a sriracha, but we deep smoke the onions, put some Vermont maple syrup, so it's smoky and sweet. I don't make a traditional barbecue sauce, but when people ask for barbecue, I point them in that direction because it's great on everything in the grill. On the sweet heat side is our hot blueberry syrup, which is Maine blueberries, Vermont maple syrup with a touch of lime and habanero. Think pancakes and ice cream. That's 1 fin.
Which you were out of at the Bowers Festival.
I know, my sister.
Yeah, she talked it up, and then she said, "Oh, but we don't have that."
I know. She told me we ran out like in the afternoon of the second day. And what's crazy is I looked at what we sold in 2019, and I added 2 full cases to that. And for whatever reason, the blueberry syrup was bonkers. So Berks County, and Bowers just seemed to devour the blue sharks. So
we love our blueberries here.
Yes,
so South Jersey, we have Hamilton, the blueberry capital of the world, and it just filters out everywhere. So now for next year, make more.
It's already been in the opportunity list, and I've sent myself an email. So we will not make that mistake.
Okay. What's next?
So in the 2 fin range, we have 2 hot sauces. Our Nurse Shark, which is a jalapeno, a verde. So that's jalapenos, poblanos, a lot of tomatillo, and we actually put cantaloupe in there for sweetness. I try really hard to rely on fruits and vegetables to provide sweetness versus, cane sugar. And then our Thresher Shark, which is our smoky chipotle with cold brew coffee. Oh, you got that right there.
Yeah, I was so enamored. I was so taken back by you just described it. So we've got this cold brew coffee. I know you're a chili head, you're a heat seeker. We love hot sauce, and not to the degree of what you're doing and creating, but I've never met anyone, or at least had been exposed to anybody doing anything with coffee in a hot sauce. Now, we're going to get people that are going to write in or message us and say, it's all over the world. How do you not know about this? But you introduced us to this. I love the smokiness. And the other thing I love on the nose is you get this vibrant pepper note, but it doesn't blow your olfactories out, your senses. It's such a delightful nose on this. You get such a wonderful smokiness too. So talk about what goes into this. You said cold brew. What else?
Yeah, actually, the story of the Thresher Shark is my wife loves hot sauce, hates Chipotle, that style. She hates Chipotle. And I said, well, I'm making a Chipotle that you're going to love. And that's just what I'm doing. So immediately I said, this can't be traditional because I know my wife's not going to like it. So I said, we both are complete coffee nuts. I was like, you know what? If I had, by the way, a coffee hot sauce, maybe I have, but I didn't recall it. But you never know. Maybe it was somewhere in the subconscious. But I just started with cold brew coffee, and it kind of, that's kind of how I start. Is I come up with an ingredient and just let it build from there. So we started with cold brew coffee. Obviously, chipotle peppers are in there. Next thing you know, we're putting in cocoa, we're putting in hibiscus. And, I wanted to bring out the smokiness even a little bit more than just a traditional chipotle pepper would bring out. So that one's similar to the sriracha. We deep smoke the onions that go in there. So that really brought out the smokiness both on the nose and on the palate. And out of all of our sauces, I really like the layers in our Thresher Shark because it really starts talking to you and you get different notes throughout it. And that one's great on, anything from eggs to tacos to turkey burgers and really anything on the grill. But that's definitely one of our better selling lower heat hot sauces. That's a 2-fin. So we call that one warm.
I do love the warmth on this. I love the smokiness. I love the sweet smokiness that you get on this. The coffee to me comes through on that underlying bitterness tone that you get in coffee. So what's really enjoyable for me is to hear describe all the ingredients, everything that goes into this. We came upon the Spicy Shark at the end of the Bowers Chili Pepper Festival. So I think we probably had tasted through 40, 50 different hot sauces. What's really enjoyable for me right now is I've got a clean palate and I get to taste this on its own. And the sensations that I'm getting, as you said, you talked about different things you can put on this, put this on. But I love the way there's so much, there's a little bit of vinegar that lingers on the palate and the smokiness. So this is delicious. This is wonderful. And then we go up into the next fin scale.
Yeah. So then we get into the 3 range. So for the sauce side of it, that's our original that we've talked about, the habanero with carrot, ginger, and bell pepper. That's a 3. And then on the sweet heat side, those are my other 2 sweet heat that I think you may have there, the hot maple syrup and the hot honey. So the hot maple syrup, that's a fun one. And the reason that we even came up with that was the only thing at the time when I was creating it, the only thing that I had in a day that didn't have heat to it or spice to it was my coffee. And I already sweetened my coffee with natural maple syrup. So I was thinking there, and I was like, if I had a hot maple syrup, then I'd be able to have a spicy coffee in the morning. And then I'd have, spice and heat to everything that I eat throughout the day. So we started messing around with it. I found out pretty early that habanero would be a great pepper to use for it. So I settled on the habanero. I found that out of all the different grade A's that you can buy, the darkest, which is the dark robust, it has its own notes of coffee and toffee, just the syrup itself, the dark robust grade, and it held up better to the heat from the habanero than a typical amber, which people are mostly used to the amber style of maple syrup, but I made the decision to go with the dark robust for those 2 reasons. And then just a hint of ginger to kind of bring out the heat a little bit more and give it slightly more complexity. So I don't know how many people actually use it in their coffee or their latte like I do, but it's definitely great. From anything from pancakes to ice cream as a glaze on salmon or pork, definitely on the grill. You could put it on ribs, and I love it. A lot of people love it in craft cocktails. We have some local bars that'll make a Jaws margarita, as I've called it, which is just a spicy margarita, spicy maple Manhattans. It's just a really fun, diverse product.
I am so appreciative of the way you just described all the uses for this. I'm thinking chicken and waffles or even catfish and waffles. But the idea of putting this into a Manhattan or a margarita or different components of a cocktail, like even a spicy mojito would do well with this. This is tremendous. And we were introduced when we were up in Vermont last year. I never heard of hot maple syrup. I'm picturing you, though, Gabe, and I want a film crew just to follow you around in this time lapse, this quick day in the life of Gabe, putting hot sauce in everything. So I just want to see that come up on YouTube and all the uses and the way you're bringing hot sauce into your world every day.
Well, I'll probably have my wife do it just so some people have someone better looking to look at. But we can come up with something like that.
So you have the next, I guess the next one is this hot honey, right?
Yeah, so that one's, I kind of talked a little bit about the sourcing of it, which is definitely the longest I ever sourced a product and how I landed on those apiaries. So I actually use 3 different types of honey in that. It's majority clover, and there's also alfalfa and goldenrod. So we blend those 3 styles of honey kind of to my spec to a certain heat level where it doesn't ruin the enzymes that are in there that are have all the health benefits to it, but that it's hot enough that we can infuse with other things. So that is where we get it. We heat it up, and that's where we infuse it again with habanero as the pepper and just a hint of cinnamon, kind of how the hot maple has a hint of ginger. This has just a back note of cinnamon to it. And for that chicken and waffles that you just described, if we're being really decadent for a Sunday brunch, it's the hot maple syrup on the waffles and the hot honey on the fried chicken. But, the number one use for hot honey for consumers is on pizza. People love hot honey. Oh, yeah. And that's how I first got onto hot honey was, there's a brand, the biggest brand by far in the country, Mike's Hot Honey out of Brooklyn. And you can get Mike's anywhere, and they do a great job. Ours is definitely different, but theirs is great too. And because they did such a good job and got it everywhere, I would be in restaurants. And if you ordered pizza, a couple different places were like, oh, would you like hot honey with that? Almost as a condiment. And so people really know it for being put on pizza, but then definitely being decadent on fried foods and anything. Also cheese plates, biscuits. I put in my tea at night when it's a cold night. And you can also do mixology, like hot toddies. You could absolutely blend it in cocktails too.
So is there a specific kind of pizza this goes with?
No, people put it on all of it. I'm not so much.
It doesn't really matter. Meatball pizza, everybody has honey.
Yeah, put it on all of it. I like dipping the crust in it. I'm not so much, for me personally, hot honey on the cheese portion, but I like dipping the crust in hot honey. But people love it. You're going to create this whole Epicurean sensation just from all the things you're describing to do with your sauces and honeys and sweet stuff too. I guess next we go into the 4-fin scale, right? Yep. So now we're into the 4, and those are 2 sauces are Caribbean, which initially I was going to start as a summer seasonal. I think I just had the beer business in my head when we had all the summer and fall seasonals. And within 2 months, it became the best seller. So I was like, well, I guess we're making this year round. So that is where I was able to use the Scotch bonnet again. So the Caribbean style, Caribbean Reef Shark is the name of the sauce, is a Scotch bonnet hot sauce with coconut milk, pineapple, and jerk spices. So it's really lush and tropical, and it really should make you feel like you're sitting on an island when you're eating. And that pairs so well with fish tacos, grilled shrimp, rice and beans. I eat a lot of rice and beans, but also all things chicken for sure. So it really just provides this nice kind of just also like a little bit of nutmeg and allspice. So it's a really fun one. So the Caribbean does really well. People like that one. And our other 4-fin is the Tiger Shark, which we had made before the Caribbean. And that's our fruit-forward hot sauce. So we start with the ghost pepper sauce, but we really balance out the heat of the ghost pepper with fruit. So that is mango, banana, and pineapple. So you really get a sweet heat version of a sauce with that one. And that's great on seafood and pork as well. And those are our 2 4-fins. And then we get to the 5-fin series. So the 5-fin is the Meg, and that is our Carolina Reaper hot sauce. Props to my good buddy Ed Curry over from Puckerbutt, who created the Carolina Reaper and really started quite a sensation. Those guys are incredible if you haven't checked out Puckerbutt sauces. So we use Smokin' Ed's Carolina Reapers, and what's nice about that one is I wanted to have a slight fruit element to that. So we use a tart cherry juice. So you're going to get a little bit of a sweet cherry start. You're going to get body from apple and some also sweetness from molasses, but it's absolutely going to finish with the heat of the Carolina Reaper. And that is the ultimate sauce for burgers and grilled meat. So that was formerly the hottest before we launched the 6-fin series in 2020. If you're listening to this podcast nationally, internationally, how do people now say, I want all those, or I want some of those? Do you ship, and how do people find them? Absolutely. So we're in a bunch of specialty shops, kind of across the country. Most of our stores are in the Northeast for sure, but we're definitely in different stores throughout the country. But you can always find our products on our website, thespicyshark.com. And if you wanted to get all of them, we actually have, it's called the Feeding Frenzy. And so it's a slight discount if you get one of each. And then there's free shipping if the order is over $60. So our website, thespicyshark.com. And we do have not all of them, but most of them we do have on Amazon Prime. So if you're a Prime member, and we try to stay stocked on Amazon as much as we can. So those would be the two best options if you don't have a local store that carries us. If you live in the Northeast, you can find some of our products at Whole Foods. That's the only kind of grocery or specialty chain that we're in. So outside of Whole Foods Northeast, we're just in the independent stores.
The great news is you can gain access to all these sauces that you make. And as you said, I'm going to sign up for that feeding frenzy, because the ones we miss or had missed at the Bowers Festival, I want to have those in my collection, because really what stands out to me and what I appreciate the work that you do is, yes, you're a hothead, right? You like the heat. You could appreciate the heat. And I like the warmth. I like that, remind me that I'm eating a hot sauce. But the other part about it is I want flavor. And I think that where we are in the world of craft hot sauce is, and you can speak to this certainly, is the uniqueness of flavor profiles. I think back in the 90s, it was, and from there, it was, how hot can we make this? How crazy hot can we really introduce heat? But flavor was sacrificed.
100%. And that's really why we started the company. I mean, there certainly are incredible hot sauce companies that came before us and led the way. Like I said, Pucker Butt's incredible. We love Butterfly Bakery and Angry Goat. Both those guys are out of Vermont. High River Sauces on Long Island. There's so many great hot sauce companies, but we just thought we could kind of bring a real culinary approach, and have a whole different range of heat, but also some of the hotter ones really bring a culinary approach to people who wanted to get a lot of heat in their product, but also wanted to have flavor. And we said, there's no reason you can't have both. It's certainly harder to do, but it's worth it.
Gabe, you have such a wonderful presence of the history and the people that have come before you, the people that are out there doing it every day. Where do you see yourself with the Spicy Shark in the history? And where do you see taking your company over the next number of years?
Well, I really hope we're considered, one of the best ones out there. That was our hope when we launched it, is to be, one of the better recognized and better liked and respected hot sauce companies out there. It is such a great, just to speak to the community, it's so easy to speak about other hot sauce companies glowingly, not only because, they deserve it, but also the community is so great. When we started in 18 and they started doing shows early in 19, we went everywhere. It didn't matter if it was the Fiery Food Show in Albuquerque, Chicago Hot Sauce Fest, Weekend of Fire in Cincinnati, SharkCon in Florida, New York City Hot Sauce Expo, Bowers in Pennsylvania. Like, of course, our home market, we still do our Sunday Kittery, Maine farmers market every Sunday, but we went everywhere. And so we've gotten to meet, pretty quickly everyone in the industry and learned how great everyone is. It's just a really great, supportive community. So I'm so happy to be a part of it, and with great people and great products. And, I don't know if we have really big aspiration. I guess my personal aspiration is for the Spicy Shark to be the only thing that I do. I still run our family's wedding venue, and I still do things in real estate, because Spicy Shark doesn't pay the bills just yet. So I guess my personal goal would be that Spicy Shark becomes self-sufficient, and it could be the only thing I do, because it's definitely my passion and what keeps me energized and excited every day. But I guess really just to be one of the most respected and most enjoyed hot sauces out there in the US.
Well, I'm grateful for your passion, and I'm grateful that we met you at Bowers and got to be introduced to this wonderful world of your impressions, your take on hot sauce. That's just been delightful for us. It sounds to me like, what we need to do is we need to help, how many more of these bottles can we sell for you, help you sell, so you can leave some of those other things and devote 100% of your time to making these hot sauces.
I'd love it. Let's get those feeding frenzies out the door.
Gabe, is there anything we haven't talked about today on the podcast? Anything you want to share with the listeners, people, things that you want people to know about the Spicy Shark?
The only thing I'd say is, check out our website, thespicyshark.com. If you're interested in our conservation efforts. That's what I'm also really passionate about. So please check out the Save the Sharks portion. If you want to see us, we definitely list all of our events. We list all of our events on our website so you can see where we're going to be. And if you want to, I know this is a ways away, but our second annual New England Hot Sauce Festival that we're putting on, we already have it scheduled. It's July 29th, the last Saturday of July, and it's back at Smutty Nose Brewery in Hampton, New Hampshire. And we're going to have even more hot sauce vendors. We had 26 last year, and it's a real celebration of Northeast hot sauces. And we're going to be bringing a lot of attention to some of the newer guys that started after us as well. And it's going to be a ton of fun. And we're going to have the same MC hosts. Our good friends Bella and Dark from Heat 101 are going to be back, and it's going to be a blast. So out of all of our events, I hope people come to that one.
Well, we need to get that on the Fermented Adventure calendar for sure. It sounds like an awesome event, and it's only going to get bigger. And here's what I would say. Whether you get to an event where you get to meet you, or you go online, or you go on Amazon, or you find you and the products in Whole Foods, try the products. Because like for us, we become big fans. And there are now foods that we can't see eating without the spicy shark. So I don't know if I'm ready to do coffee yet, Gabe, but coffee, tea. But yeah, definitely getting into those cocktails and things like that. Thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for being a friend of Fermented Adventure. We can't wait to see you in person and grab some of that blueberry as well.
I sincerely appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Gabe.
Take it easy.
Cheers.